You read the title right. The One Piece is literally a pile of crap, but not just any crap. Ambergris, the rare, waxy treasure that always be marinating inside a whale's guts. And what if I told you it's a missing key to the ultimate energy source Vegapunk's been trying to recreate? And I'm about to prove in this video why this is the mystery that's had One Piece fans losing their shit since 1997. Now, I've thrown my fair share of theories on what the One Piece might be, but after too many sleepless nights and a bizarre rabbit hole about whales secretly being barrels, don't worry, that part will make sense later. I finally connected the dots. Oda's been foreshadowing this in plain sight, hidden behind one of his dumbest running gags. Ever notice Luffy's weird obsession with asking certain people if they poop? But not just anyone. Only those linked to the ocean. Mermaids like Kami and Madame Charlie, Brooke, whose entire backstory revolves around Laboon, a whale. It's easy to dismiss as Oda just being Oda, but nah, this is deliberate foreshadowing. So in this theory, we're breaking down why the One Piece is a treasure Roger was too early to claim, why it's an untapped energy source waiting to be ignited, and how Luffy's already been foreshadowed to do precisely that. Before we get started, let me know in the comments below your most cracked, unhinged theory on what the One Piece is. And while you're at it, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Gol D Roger finally reaches Laughtale, stands before the world's greatest treasure, and what does he do? He laughs his ass off. Then he drops the biggest narrative breadcrumb in One Piece history. We were too early. That phrase has haunted us One Piece fans for 84 years. Too early for what? Roger wasn't too weak. He wasn't incapable of understanding what he found. He just arrived before the right time. But what the hell does that even mean? If the One Piece was just gold, weapons, or even ancient knowledge, why couldn't Roger take it? The answer, Uno reverses everything we thought we knew about the One Piece. Roger was too early because the One Piece wasn't ready, because it was still transforming. It wasn't just treasure, it was something that had to become something more over time. Why exactly did Roger have to wait for it? To understand that, we need to look at how One Piece treats the concept of time. Time in One Piece isn't merely just a plot device, it is the thematic mechanism that determines who wins, who loses, and who truly matters in history. You think Luffy could have boxed with Kaido 2 years ago? Luffy would have been turned into Gear Zero Pancake in 5 seconds flat. Then you've got the Wano borders that were initially supposed to open with the help of Sunisha 20 years after Oden's death. Still, Momo decided, nah, there's just way too many people acting feral outside and I ain't trying to get involved. Speaking of Zunisha, bro is literally crip rocking across the world with no end in sight. The pattern is obvious. Just like Luffy couldn't take down Kaido with the right timing, Roger couldn't claim the One Piece before it was ready. Oda's been showing us over and over, timing is everything in this story. This directly applies to the One Piece treasure we're suggesting in this video. But that raises a new question. How the hell do you keep something hidden and untouched for over 800 years? That's where whales come in. Whales aren't just marine life in One Piece, they appear at critical moments in the story, connected to deep history, lost knowledge, and endurance. Laboon is a literal belly of the whale moment for the Straw Hats, mirroring the classical mythological symbol of transformation. Laboon also symbolizes immense patience, having waited 50 years for the Rumbar Pirates, or more accurately, now Brooke. His presence at the entrance to the Grand Line isn't just touching, it's thematically significant. On Zou, the whale tree houses a road poneglyph, one of the 4 keys needed to reach Laughtale. The fact that this crucial historical marker is housed within a structure shaped like a whale suggests whales as guardians of ancient knowledge. Whitebeard, who was famously known as the man closest to the One Piece after Roger's death, sailed on a whale ship named the Moby Dick. It seems far from coincidental that this man, who's the second only to Roger, had his legacy tied to a whale. And this connection takes on an even deeper significance when considering that Laughtale might be either inside a whale or the whale itself. It's a long-standing theory within the fandom, with my headcanon being that the whale is white. Laboon serves as perfect foreshadowing for this idea, and after developing this theory, I generally believe it is the case that the island that the Straw Hats have been searching for, which they learned about from Crocus, the same guy taking care of a whale, is a whale. Plus, a white whale would perfectly complement the color scheme of Luffy's Gear 5th glow-up. The symbolic alignment between Whitebeard's white ship, a white island whale, and the white Power Ranger drip of the Nika Devil Fruit Awakening creates a powerful thematic triangle that cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence. That is peak foreshadowing. The signs are signing, the dots are connecting. A huge thanks to a Reddit post by MimiK500. They did an incredible job gathering the analysis highlighting how vital whales are in the series, which helped strengthen this theory right from the jump. So, if the One Piece is inside a whale, what could it be? Well, I've already teased it at the start of the video, but here's a reminder. Whale shit. Or, if you prefer a much classier term, ambergris. For those unfamiliar, ambergris is a rare substance produced in the digestive system of sperm whales. When first expelled, it's just stinky doo-doo trash. Nothing special. But after years in the ocean, hitting salt, sand, and air, it levels up. It becomes one of the most valuable substances on Earth, used to perfumes and prized for its unique properties. What starts as basic shit turns legendary through the simple passage of time. This process perfectly mirrors what we are suggesting about the One Piece. It's a treasure left to undergo centuries of transformation. Something that, like ambergris, had to change from its original form into something far more valuable. It would explain Roger's words perfectly. He found the One Piece, but it was still developing, still becoming what it needed to be. He was too early because the transformation wasn't complete. The treasure required more time in its whale guardian and the other factors that we'll discuss later, which would enhance its properties. And this leads to the most exciting possibility, that the One Piece isn't just a static treasure, it was meant to become what it was always intended to be. What kind of treasure is so dangerous that the world government erased an entire civilization to keep it a secret? Here's the answer. The kind of power that made Vegapunk devote his entire life to pursuing it. Because the One Piece isn't just some hidden treasure, it's fuel. And it's been aging like fine wine at laughtale, just needing that one spark to set everything in motion. Now you're probably wondering how a bunch of whale shit could be the same undying flame that Vegapunk's been eager to recreate all this time. Before we answer that question though, let's discuss fuel and why it's such an important theme in the One Piece series. This is another topic I covered in my earlier theory video about what the One Piece treasure is, so I'll just give you all the TLDR. Fuel has always been central to the story of One Piece. Consider Rocket Man and the Puffing Tom in the Water 7 saga, where steam-powered locomotion represents the drive to move forward, exemplified by Luffy's motivation to save Robin, especially with Gear Second, which mimics a steam engine, with his blood acting as high-pressure fuel. Enel's electricity powers the Arc Maxim and Birka, a city on the moon. The wind keeps the windmills in Fuchsia Village spinning, and even Frankie's use of cola plays a role in contributing to the theme of fuel. Fuel is always present, driving things forward, but it's not just about physical energy. Oda uses fuel as a metaphor for what motivates characters to keep going. And if you're enjoying the theory video so far and feel motivated to continue watching, I would appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel for more theories like this. The Egghead arc places the theme of fuel at the forefront, alongside themes of dreams and desires, with the centerpiece being the Mother Flame, Vegapunk's attempt to create the eternal energy. This discussion about fuel builds towards the eventual reveal that the purpose of the One Piece is connected to the concept of fuel. Not just fuel, but also resources and the necessity to share them equally worldwide. This idea not only fuels Vegapunk's motivation behind the Mother Flame project, but also reflects the kind of world Luffy wants to create, as captured in his straightforward declaration after defeating Kaido. I want to create a world where all my friends can eat as much as they want. Alright, plot twist. How does a pile of ambergris create infinite energy? Maybe even never-ending fire? That's where the missing ingredient Vegapunk has been searching for to complete the Mother Flame comes into play. Joy Boy's Haki. To understand how Joy Boy's Haki might be a key factor in completing the One Piece, we need to think about nuclear fusion. Vegapunk is essentially trying to create his own sun, and nuclear fusion is the process that powers our sun. It occurs because of the intense pressure of the sun's gravitational field, generating a consistent energy source. What if Haki contains something similar to that pressure, like Conqueror's Haki? Since we're talking about Joy Boy's Haki, the same type that sent the Five Elders packing, it's not too far-fetched to consider that the quality of his Haki could act as a kind of internal pressure, similar to the gravity that allows nuclear fusion to occur in the sun. So imagine Joy Boy infusing some of his most powerful Haki into some rope and tying it around the ambergris, keeping it bound and preserved for over 800 years without breaking down. Essentially, in chapter 1122, when Emmett untied the Haki-infused knot, it wasn't just random world building, it was Oda directly demonstrating how Joy Boy preserved the One Piece by binding it with his Haki, refining it into something with a potential chemical makeup that could create a sun. And what's crazy about this logic is when you think about the story of Porcus de Rouge, the mother of Ace. She held Ace in her womb for 20 months, far longer than should have been possible, all to protect him from the world government's purge. This parallels exactly what the whale would be doing with the One Piece. Just like Rouge keeping Ace hidden, delaying his birth until the right moment, Joy Boy ensured that the One Piece would remain sealed, preserved, and untouched in the whale until it transformed into what it was meant to be. The key thing to remember about Ace in this comparison is Roger wanted Ace to take over his role and search for the One Piece. The fight between Ace and Blackbeard also highlights their symbolic connection. Ace represents the sun, while Blackbeard represents darkness. Therefore, the One Piece represents the sun, while the world government represents darkness. Overall, Joy Boy didn't just hide any kind of treasure. He engineered a revolution, and now, after 8 centuries, the fuel will reach its final stage, and Luffy will be the one to light the match. Just a quick aside, I'm going to throw this idea out there and see if it sticks, so do what you like with it. I think it's possible that Joy Boy's haki, infused with a rope, contained his greatest future sight haki. It allowed Roger to catch a glimpse into the future, seeing Luffy in his gear 5th as the new Joy Boy of the far future. Maybe this was the P comedy lord that had Roger wheezing on the spot. That's one possibility, but let me know in the comments below what you think made Roger laugh. But in any case, the only question remains, how will Luffy light the match? The answer has been staring at us in the face since Skypiea. When Luffy knocked a nail into next week with the golden rifle, it wasn't just about shutting up a lightning-wielding egomaniac. It wrapped up a 400-year-old fight over stolen land and lost history. Sound familiar? It should. This parallels the Great War that occurred during the Void Century and still continues today. So we're about to see the same thing happen again, but this time, it's not just one island, it's the entire world. The Skypiea arc was basically Oda handing us a cheat sheet for how this whole story would wrap up. And as the Sun God, Luffy's final battle will be all about fire and sunlight. His fire-themed attacks, Red Hawk and Red Rock, tap into something deeper. Fire isn't just destruction, it's change. It's burning away the old world to make room for something better. But where does Luffy's fire actually come from? That's an important question to ask. I talked about this before in my old theory about what I thought the One Piece originally was, but I believe Luffy's fire is tied to his soul. Oda's inspiration for the concept of souls in the series seemed to draw from the concept of hitodama in Japanese folklore, souls appearing as glowing fireballs. We've seen this hinted at all over the story. Brook's Yomi Yomi no Mi allows his soul to take on the form of visible energy, resembling the traditional appearance of hitodama. At the same time, Sanji's Diablo Jabe ignites through his passion and emotions, elements that can easily be connected to the soul. And even Lao Ji, for example, collapsed from old age mid-battle, and we literally saw his soul drift away like a flickering fireball. It's a minor detail, but it aligns perfectly with the idea that souls in One Piece manifest as flames, not only reinforcing the connection between life and fire, but also illustrating how the soul represents people's need for freedom. So you can think of souls as tiny versions of the sun. That explanation essentially clarifies why the Gum Gum fruit, or the human fruit model Nika, is inspired by a sun god, despite the stretching ability being the highlight of Luffy's skill set. And I explore this in even greater detail in this video right here. So by the end of the day, Luffy's Red Hawk and Red Rock attacks aren't just to honor Ace, they are reflections of his spirit. And when you factor in the Lunarians, it's not hard to imagine that the flames they project could actually be their souls burning in a visible physical form. Given the comparison between King and Sanji, it might be that instead of Oda hinting towards Sanji being experimented with Lunarian DNA, the observation was more so hinting towards the Lunarians' emotional element embedded in their flames, framing their flames as a reflection of their very essence, their soul. That's why Luffy's flames feel so significant. It's not just an aesthetic choice, it's his soul fighting back. I want to point out that before we conclude that whale poop was the Ancient Kingdom's groundbreaking solution to an energy crisis, let's take a step back. Does that really sound like the pinnacle of an advanced civilization's technology? A society supposedly light years ahead of its time, capable of inventions beyond anything in the modern world. Wouldn't just rely on fermented whale shit, right? Like, why would they use it if they could access something far more sophisticated? And that leads us to a much bigger question. What kind of energy method did the Ancient Kingdom harness that made them such a massive threat to the 20 Kings? A power so disruptive that the world government didn't just suppress it, they erased every trace of it, ensuring no one could ever recreate it. If fire wasn't the foundation of their energy system, then maybe the honest answer lies in something far more esoteric. dreams. In One Piece, dreams are more than abstract wishes. They are forces of change. Luffy's dream of freedom isn't just a personal goal, it inspires others. It brings people together and alters the world. Now, if souls are the manifestation of a person's essence, emotions, and will, then what if the ancient kingdom found a way to harness that? Instead of extracting physical resources like coal or oil, they might have used the burning passion of people's dreams, literal willpower, hockey, as an energy source. There's a lot to unpack regarding this idea, so I prefer to save the full explanation for a future video that will allow me to properly explain the logic behind this concept and possibly the real story of the conflict between the 20 kings and the ancient kingdom. Until then, check out this Hidden Island Theory video where he discusses the notion of dreams as an energy source. He might have been one of the first people to discuss this. It's a fascinating theory, far more prevalent now, especially after chapter 1115. Given the chapter's implications, at least for me, the concept of energy, resources, and so on assumes a crucial role, particularly in understanding the central conflict of the One Piece narrative and why Imu seeks to eliminate those who carry the will of D. Speaking of conflict, the central conflict, as you can see so far, centers on the true nature of the One Piece and its relationship to fire. We're talking about light versus darkness, freedom versus oppression, and the final boss, it's not Imu. I believe it will be Blackbeard, who will not only be the final villain, but also usurp Imu by the end of the day to take over the world government, aiming to become the king of the world, just like Rox was fighting to become. He's been Luffy's shadow since Jaya, hoarding power while Luffy spreads it. One's been blessed with the forbidden glizzy vortex energy swallowing everything in sight like a black hole, the other brings light like the sun. The fight has been inevitable since day one. This battle isn't just a fight for the Pirate King title, it's a battle over what the title even means. Is the Pirate King the one who takes the most, or the one who frees the most? Who gets to decide what becomes of the world? Now, I get why people would think that Imu should be the final villain. The case is solid, Imu is the hidden ruler of the world, pulling the strings and keeping everything in check. If One Piece is about tearing down the ultimate oppressor, Imu surely fits the bill. But here's why I don't see it that way. Blackbeard isn't just a puppet master in the background, he's the guy standing directly in Luffy's way. Again, if Luffy's final battle is about proving what kind of Pirate King he will be, then Blackbeard is the only real opponent who makes sense in my opinion. If you want to hear me break this down even further, check out my video on the Elbaf mural. I go deep into why I believe Blackbeard is the actual final antagonist. But back to Luffy's golden rifle against Nell. As I mentioned earlier, Oda is cooking with foreshadowing with this technique because I believe its greater purpose is to set the stage for what the One Piece will look like when it's finally activated or takes on its proper form and is used against Blackbeard, potentially destroying the Red Line at the same time, if you subscribe to the destruction of the Red Line theory. Because what I'm about to tell y'all will blow your fucking mind. It's only been a couple of days since I thought of this idea, and I'm still getting goosebumps. Okay, so let's set the scene. Luffy and Blackbeard are fighting on top of the Red Line. Through some quirky shenanigans like always, Luffy somehow gets the One Piece, the whale poop, stuck on his arm. So he's gotta deal with that bullshit. Meanwhile, Blackbeard takes on his final form or whatever, similar to Enel with his 200 million volt Amadou form. Blackbeard's talking shit about how he'll destroy everything, and that's when Luffy gets super pissed off. He's in his gear 5th, gear 6th, shifting the turbo mode, cocks back his arm with the One Piece, lights that bitch on fire like he's about to launch a red rock. Instead, the flames engulf the entire One Piece, visually resembling the sun. The Gum Gum New Year's Dawn. That's when Luffy unleashes the punch blessed by the sun gods, straight at Blackbeard's face, causing it to slam against the red wall, and the impact shatters the damn thing. Are you not bricked up? Cause shit, I will if this happens. He takes down Mary Joie, the world government under Blackbeard's rule collapses, Luffy creates the Undying Flame thanks to the nuclear fusion process triggered by his fire coming in contact with the Joy Boy hockey-infused ambergris that is the One Piece. Thus, Luffy fulfills Joy Boy's will, ends the Great War, and brings the dawn of the world. Literally, that is One Piece. All foreshadowed through the simple act of Luffy randomly asking people if they poop. I'll be honest, that would probably be the most Oda thing Oda would do. And another Oda thing that Oda would do is reveal that the entire story of One Piece was nothing more than an allegory for his birthday. I'll explain everything in part 2.
Just know if I dish you, I make sure you know that I hit you like I'm on your an album to fall off. It's pretty ironic, 'cause it ain't no fall off for me.